Hey guys, so this is quite outside the scope of what I usually do. I should preface this by saying that I'm just an entertainer, really just a professional doll player at the end of the day. But I feel like what I have to say is very important. I've been using the internet for a very long time, and I'd say I've had a pretty positive experience so far. It's been a lot of fun for me, but recently, I'd say really since COVID started, the internet seems to have just started falling apart. The internet seems to have become just so infested with such an insidious degree of evil that the internet almost just doesn't feel like it's worth using anymore. Pornography is everywhere, especially across YouTube nowadays. It seems like YouTube doesn't care about it. People are becoming even more hostile over time for seemingly no reason. Entertainment has become exceptionally corporatized, so nobody seems to be making anything worth watching anymore. Racism is abundant, and it's not just the haha, I'm so edgy kind of racism. No, I mean like legitimate racism. It's bad and great, wouldn't you know it? The UK and some other groups have decided to go full-blown 1984 in an attempt to solve the issue, I guess. Although, to be fair, if you've been following what's going on in the UK, this isn't exactly coming from nowhere. I'm surprised it didn't show up sooner. The thing that really pushed me over the edge, or I guess one of the factors that really pushed me over the edge, and one of the reasons I decided to make this video, was that I saw a video the other day called The Gen Alpha Racism Epidemic. And it genuinely made me wake up, for lack of a better term. And I asked myself, what are we doing? What are we letting our children be exposed to? What are we exposing ourselves to? Why are we letting this happen? How did we end up like this? And this kind of thing just would have been unthinkable even just 5 years ago. But it seems that nobody cares. Actually, I think that's not really true. I think people do actually care. But a lot of people don't really know what to do about it. I think a lot of people just feel powerless now. Or they've become so desensitized to what the internet is today that they're just kind of out of it, Really, how many videos have you seen complaining about the AI porn ads and the bots, and threats by Google to ban all ad blockers, news about another high-profile child predator being discovered, videos on how the AI is going to destroy the world, and even just recently, all the videos about what the UK government is doing. If a government of a country, of what is supposed to be called the free world, feels the need to go full 1984 under the guise of protecting the children, obviously things have gone very, very wrong. And I don't think I'm necessarily alone on this. I've noticed a lot of dissatisfaction growing on the internet as of late, from the racism that I've spoken of, political worms riling up people, contaminated ads, corruption of the content we consume, the dread of AI. There's so much evil to be upset about. And now here I am talking to you. But I'm talking to you because I believe I have a solution. I have come to share a message that I believe many will find favorable. I have not come to stir you up to anger or to fill you with despair like everyone else. No, I've come to share, you could say, a revelation of hope, a vision of a future internet, a more peaceable and gentler internet, a fun internet like what we used to have not that long ago. I'll tell you about how this revelation came to me. You see, I started a Discord server recently. I'm sure if you are a frequent watcher of my channel, you'll probably have seen it. I started a new Discord for my channel that everyone can join. And when I was designing my server, I obviously wanted it to conform to my standards. I wanted to feel welcome in what was essentially my own home, basically. Because through my experiences, I never really felt at home anywhere else. Except for YouTube, I guess. But I also knew the reputation of Discord and all the frightening things you could find on it. So I decided I wanted to make my Discord to be a sort of sanctuary, right? You may not stick around all the time, and maybe the standards here are a little stricter than what most are used to, but at least you know that when you come here, it'll be safe and it'll be comfortable. That's what I wanted to make. Anyways, I decided to make a new channel the other day called Homemade Memes. And the reason I did this is because I'm rather disappointed with memes today. Like, if you ask me, if it's true that memes are the DNA of the soul, then clearly we have cancer, basically. So in typical me fashion, I decided, you know what, fine, I'll do it myself. We'll make our own friggin' memes. It'll be cringe, but it will be beautiful. Now, I suppose we haven't had too many memes posted so far, but when I created this channel, that's when I realized, hey, if I can create my own little house, my own island of light, you could call it, in a sea of unknowable darkness, and we can make our own little world to our liking. You know, what if we could create our own little archipelago of other islands of light, maybe even a whole continent of light, a union where we can just have fun in a more gentle place. You know, if there's a dark web that is built on all sort of insidious things, what if we could build the opposite? What if we could build a light web of good things? Things that are more wholesome, you could say. This is that revelation that I bring to you. And so I want to invite you to come and join me in creating this light web. This isn't to say that you should tear down what we have today, or that you should abandon your own little homes on the internet in search of some virtual utopia or some digital Zion. That would be insane and completely impractical, and actually kind of defies the open source nature of the free internet. The most fundamental thing in order for this light web to work is that it has to be done of our own free will. That is the most important thing. We don't have to live either in a digital hell of our own creation, or live at the mercy of an oppressive government ran by useful idiots. We can forge our own roads, but it must be done of our own free will and our volition. Now, there might be two trains of thought that are starting to roll in your heads. The first is probably, alright, cool, how do we go about creating this light web? The second might be something like, you know, Cube, you're sounding kind of sus. You sound like you're trying to start a cult. I will answer the second first. So, at risk of ending up on a Turkey Tom episode in a couple years, yes, you could say that I am starting a cult. The reason being that I want to go about it in almost a sort of religious way, you could say, is that I think the reason why the internet sucks today is actually more spiritual in nature than anything else. Not in the sense of, oh, the forces of the devil are upon us, we must forsake all unrighteousness and go to church and pray and read our Bibles. No. That's not what I'm saying. Although if that fits your fancy, go right ahead. Now, the problem actually has to do with apathy and idleness. Those two things. The evils that we see around us today came because we did not care. We saw people do and say outrageous things, and we said, nah, they're just being edgy. They're just trolling, and we ignored them. And if we did care, maybe we just reported it, what we didn't like, and said to ourselves, they'll take care of it. Or maybe you're like me and then said to yourself, I don't like it here. I'm leaving. You see, if you ignore something, it never goes away, and it almost always gets worse. It may start out as a joke, but it may legitimize itself, you could say, and be seen as okay over time and become the norm. And I bet you $10 that's what happened with Instagram. I guess if you're not aware somehow, Instagram is a very terrible place to be. I was there for a while and I had to leave because it was just not worth it. But with Instagram, it may have started out as a neat little photo sharing platform, but it corrupted itself to this void of hell that we see today. That was apathy. But idleness is very similar, and you could say that they're two sides of the same coin. It has to do with lowering of boundaries. And I'm going to use the evolution of meme compilations on YouTube for this. So I remember really getting into memes back in like 2015, 2016-ish, about 10 years ago. And I remember this is when meme compilations were starting to become a thing. You had like Fail Army. Tiger Productions was one of them. I guess that's kind of a separate but related thing. A lot of Vine compilations too. And I remember that the first meme compilations we were seeing, they were fairly tame. Like, you didn't really see a lot of like super extreme stuff in there. And I guess I'm using extreme kind of loosely. And it's also important to remember, and I just said it, but this was when Vine was still around. But anyways, what happened was standard meme compilations were what we had at first. They were fairly tame. Eventually, what ended up happening was those got boring, and eventually the dank memes came around. Those were the edgier memes of the time, riding on the boundary of what was okay. Those blew up, and then eventually they became the standard. Those started to become boring too, and then the dank offensive meme compilation started showing up, and this was, I would say, around the 2017 timeframe. This was the next step up. That became the standard. After dank offensive meme compilations, it just became offensive memes. And I would say this was around like 2018, 2019-ish when those started coming around. And like as we saw before, it became the standard. After that, it was just offensive memes. And now it seems the next step in the chain is the Instagram Reels compilations. So do you see what I mean? It's like the allegory of the frog in boiling water, right? If you don't know what that is, basically, the idea is that you can't put a frog in a pot of boiling water because it'll jump out. So what you have to do is you have to put it in cooler water and then slowly crank up the heat over time until eventually the frog burns to death. It's not actually true, but the point is we went from like your silly little Vine compilations to now like 20 minutes of racism disguised as a meme compilation. It reminds me of something from the first Warhammer 40k Dawn of War game. So if you click on the Marine Squad, the Space Marine Squad, sometimes what they'll say is, or sometimes they'll give a little quote, and it goes, "Heresy grows in idleness," or something along that lines. And I realize there's a fair bit of truth to that as a metaphor. And that's why between apathy and idleness, I think idleness is the scarier one, because rarely do you even see it coming until it's too late. Like if Instagram Reels compilations are, like, they're pretty bad now, imagine what it'll be in like just another 2 years. But for apathy though, apathy is actually pretty fairly easy to see. But anyways, so how do we go about solving apathy and idleness. Now, this goes into answering question 1, which is, what do we do? I'm a big fan of Confucian ethics, and so I think we go about solving these problems and later ultimately creating this light web the Confucian way, which is by instilling people with good principles and showing them what good virtue looks like. And it makes sense why you would do this. I mean, think about it. So, if you went to jail, what would be worse? Would it be just the going to jail itself is scarier? Or would the more scary thing would be having to tell your parents that you were sent to jail? Right. I would say for most people, the scarier thing would probably be telling your parents that you went to jail and having to explain what happened. I guess it's probably not a perfect example, but for me, that is true. If I went to jail, my mom would probably die, and my dad would never talk to me again. The reason is, it's because, they spent a lot of time trying to build me into a person that they thought was suitable, or somebody who was an acceptable person socially, right? And so if I was sent to jail for whatever reason, it would completely crush them, and all their effort would have been in vain. This is also why, with what the UK is doing right now, this is why you can't use the law to beat people into compliance. People don't care about what a paper written by a bunch of bureaucratic idiots say. They're not your parents. They're not your friends, or someone you admire, someone you want to respect you. So, really, why should you care? Oh, well, they might arrest you. Okay, yeah, that's might be kind of scary at first, but the problem is that fear doesn't work forever. And if it becomes common enough for people to just be thrown in jail for frivolous things, like we see in, I guess I don't really have an example, but if you're being thrown in jail for frivolous things, the rule of law starts to become meaningless, and eventually nobody's going to care. And maybe even the police, they'll just stop upholding the law, because why would you uphold a law that is stupid or impractical or worthless in some capacity? So if you're trying to get people to do good things, actually before I go to that, there's also the question of the morality of law, right? So just because it's a law doesn't mean it's actually okay. And the reverse is also true, but that's not quite what we're talking about right now. Okay, moving on. So if you're trying to get people to do good things, the only way you can accomplish that is if you fill their hearts with good things first, with good principles. You can't expect to fit good things into their minds, because the reality of it is, reason isn't all that reasonable, and logic is rarely so logical. So if you want people to do good things, you have to fill their hearts with good things first. With that being said, what exactly do I want to see out of you? And bear with me, because I'm going to get a little bit deep here. So first of all, I want you to stop. Stop what you're doing. I want you to pause yourself. Take a break from the internet for a moment. Take a break from any screen. Take a break from anything that might distract you and go on a walk around your neighborhood. Or maybe even just lay in bed, feel the fibers of your blankets and all that, and stare at the ceiling for a second. I need you to realize, because you may have forgotten, and it's very easy to forget what is obvious, I need you to realize that you are a human being. You are an individual among untold billions. And I want you to see that brilliance within yourself. I want you to see that you have a soul within you. That there is value to your soul. You're not just an animal, or an animated corpse, or a number, or whatever. You are a named soul. And names have power. In fact, names are power. If your soul is sleeping, if you realize your soul is sleeping, I need your soul to wake up. Kind of like what happened to me. And when your soul is fully awake, I want you to think about your life. I want you to examine your experience on the internet. This doesn't have to be just for the internet. You can do it for your whole life too. I want you to ask yourself if you are okay in the spot that you're at. That this is indeed what you want, and maybe even what you need. If not, make the change. Now ask yourself, once your soul is fully awake and after you have meditated on this question, I now want you to ask yourself, have you been consuming good things? The things that you consume you, after all. If you are dissatisfied with what is consuming you, do not consume them. Look for better things. Or maybe even just, if you can't find them, it's better to stop. At the same time, ask yourself, have your hands been doing good things? Are you proud, or at least satisfied with what you have done? Would you be proud to share them with your parents or someone you look up to? If not, I want you to stop and try to put your hands to work to do good things. Do you live in fear or in constant anger over things that you cannot control? If so, give them up. Because fear binds you and anger blinds you. And both of them make you easier to control. And they take away the power over your life. Ask yourself, how much are you in control of yourself? Are you always in control of your mind? How about your body? Is your mind frequently distracted? Or are you frequently led away from doing good things by desire or impulse? If so, become aware of it. Stop yourself and try to move in the direction of control. Do you associate with yourselves with malevolent people? If so, you may want to leave the tar pits which have bound them and free those you find who will follow you along the way. This is probably the most difficult thing you can do. It's probably the most difficult thing you will do. And once you have thoroughly asked those questions of yourself, I want you to apply the correct guiding principles and boundaries so that you may embody those virtues. So what do I mean? Like, for example, if your soul is quick to be idle, vigilance will be the virtue that you should embody. If you are quick to absorb things that are unfit for your soul and cause you trouble, temperance, restraint, that will be the virtue you aspire towards. If you are quick to do evil with your hands, strive to be an architect of good things, things fit for your soul and which bring comfort to your soul and to the souls of others. Create something that you can truly have pride in. If you are one who falls quickly to anger or fear, contentedness, and or bravery, those are the virtues you should look for. If you are frequently led away by distractions or desires, strength of will and the ability to understand higher perspectives than what you know should be the virtue you try to embody. If you frequently find yourselves among malevolent and unclean groups of people, you should strive to bear virtues of righteousness. Become compassionate. Become long-suffering. Shine so bright that they may be drawn to your example, that they may free themselves from those tar pits. Now, I suppose this might be somewhat difficult to hear, and it may seem almost paradoxical, because I said that freedom is the foundation of this project, and yet I ask you to give up things that you may enjoy or find difficult to give up, and to set boundaries for yourself. That seems kind of counterintuitive. That doesn't seem right. The reason for this is because in order for freedom to work and to be actually worth something, freedom requires principles and boundaries that you try to keep yourself in. Freedom without any kind of guiding principle or any kind of boundary, or that is hedonism. And hedonism is very much the opposite of freedom, because now you're just bound to your own whims and instincts and desires. Think of yin and yang, right? So here's yin and yang. So both halves represent what we call the Tao, right? Which is an unknowable thing, but it can be thought of as a force. It is what allows for reality to exist. The thing about them, and what a lot of people don't understand, I guess likely because they don't know, is actually that the two halves, they're not fighting each other. They're complementary. They work together. It's basically like they're husband and wife. So yang is the husband, yin is the wife, right? Yang, the light part, and I'll write it for you. So this is the character for yang. Yang, the light part, can be thought of as the creative force. It is constantly moving, and is what allows for things to exist. Yin, over here, the dark part, and I'll draw that right here. So, here we go. Here's yin right here. So yin is what you would call the foundation. It is not moving, and can be thought of as the space or the canvas for yang to create. Like here's my water bottle, right? Yang can be thought of as the water that is inside the bottle, and yin is the bottle itself. So yin allows for the water to be carried, and it gives shape to the water, and it allows for the water to be drinking by me. Without yin, I couldn't really do anything with the water. I guess I would have to go to the water fountain and drink out of the water fountain. But at the same time, without yang, there would be no water. And I guess, arguably, there'd be no water bottle, but I'm sure you get the point. Anyways, back to those virtues that I was talking about. It is important that I say that I'm not expecting perfection out of you, or that I'm expecting you to just abandon everything. No, I just want you to understand balance and to live in a way that is okay to you. And I know that many people that watch this video, their souls have been asleep for a very long time. They may have never even been awake. So for me to ask someone who has never been awake to get up and go run a marathon is completely unreasonable. If the most you can do right now is wake up, sit up, and just get a look at your surroundings, that is enough for now. Progress is the most important thing here. Regardless, as you strive to obtain these virtues, I want you to use them to serve others so that they can be inspired by your example. And just in general, it would make the internet a lot more of a comfortable place to be in. A lot more polite, you could say. And really, what I've given you is power. And power is not meant for one person alone. It is meant to be used for the benefit of other people. So use your gifts to make the experience for other people just a little bit softer, a little bit more comfortable. And I want you, like, if you know of good places, good islands of light that we're talking about, and like I've shared Glomble several times on this channel. It's a great website. And if YouTube does go through with their AI age recognition thingamajig, I bet you, or I guess a great place to go would be Glomble. It's a small place, but it's comfortable. I guess join other islands of light with like-minded people. And if you can, create your own islands of light, if you can and are willing. Whether it be your own websites, Discord servers, maybe your own subreddits, whatever. What is important to me is that these islands are made and that we try to build bridges between them. Like, it's called the internet. So, like, think of a net, right? So, in order for the net to work, you have to build the connections between each node. And the internet is practically infinite in size, so it's important that you try and make as big of a net as possible. And remember, we're not trying to replace anything. We're not trying to destroy or tear down anything. If we have the internet, and you have, I guess, the dark web below, we just create a new layer above. This is the Internet of Light. I thought I might go on to explain how you should be a leader of these islands of light, how you should administrate them, but, I don't really think that's necessary. But if you would like to know what I think, I would recommend checking out the Analects of Confucius. I think those are pretty good. There's actually an app. If you're on Android, you guys like my wallpaper? Yeah, so there's an app on the thing. It's the little yin-yang one here. I also have the Dao De Jing. That's also a good breed. So yeah, I would check those out. And I think I've reached the end of what I wanted to say. And I know I might sound a bit crazy, and maybe a little too optimistic, but I do really think we can create a better internet for us all. The first step is that we just need to wake up and smell the roses. And if we can't find any, we'll just have to plant some. And if you enjoyed this unusual sermon of mine, like this video, I would certainly ask that you share it with others that you think might find value in it. And I'd also recommend subscribing to my other channel. Lord of the Glass Cube talks about things. You can find it on my, if you're on YouTube, I'm probably going to upload this to Glomble too. If you like, or I guess if you're on my main channel, you can go check out my secondary channel. That's what it's called. Because if I do post any follow-up videos to this, I would probably post them there. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to see them down below. And I think I've reached the end of what I wanted to say. And I'll see you guys around. Hopefully we can get back to our regularly scheduled Fumo content. I guess it's not really all that regularly scheduled, but Fumo content. Because I know that's what you want. Here's your Fumo